Hello, it's Wednesday, Women That Shred. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today, I think is going to be really cool because I think we're going to delve in deep into some things that a lot of people don't really talk about, right? Money. And we're in the mortgage industry, money, you kind of have to be okay talking about money. So we're going to talk about the psychology of money. And my special guest is Mitra, and she goes by Money Mitra. So that you say that's how a lot of people literally will see you out in public.
Literally, yes.
No, so I love that. Mm-hmm. Now, Mitra and I, we randomly met in Nashville. So we met face to face. So it's kind of nice that we already have that personal rapport, which is always nice. But you're in the mortgage industry, but you have a psychology degree, a degree in psychology, right? So Tell me a little bit about where you thought you were going to go with that degree.
Right. So, following the American dream, I went to college. I went to Vanderbilt University. I actually started out pre-med. So that's, and in talking with people, I've heard that a lot. So it's we started in one direction, then pivoted into something else. And then I was like, you know what? I don't really like blood. Why am I doing this? Probably, again, some psychology. There's some conditioning and programming. Being a doctor is the highest level of education. There's those accolades, that sense of success that we are, a lot of times push for and strive for. And sometimes have a lot of outside influence as well. So I think, it's kind of what my parents wanted for me, maybe not so much for me. And then I was like, you know what? I took some psychology class. This is fascinating to me. The mind, the behavior, and social experiments. I just loved all that kind of stuff. So I switched my major to that, and I ended up, graduating. Then I went and got a master's degree in clinical psychology as well. So that's kind of how that transition happened for me.
You know what? It's funny because when you said pre-med Vanderbilt, I actually have another friend that went to Vanderbilt for pre-med and now ended up in the film industry.
I have a friend like that too. She's an actress, but she finished. She really could go practice right now if she wanted to, but she just decided she didn't want to do it. She was going to be an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He wanted to do pediatric surgery, but he took a film course at Vanderbilt, and then it just, he ended up being, now he's a camera grip. And he's been in the industry forever. So when you said pre-med Vanderbilt, I'm like, what is it about the pre-med program at Vanderbilt?
It's very early front loaded, all the classes. It's you're really trying to, transition and get acclimated, when you get to school. And it's I don't know about all this.
Yeah, but that's a great school. Wow. Yeah. I mean, very impressive. So then you end up in the mortgage industry. And when I say end up, I feel like we all kind of just end up there.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of stumble into it?
So, and literally, ironically enough, I came out in the winter of 2009 from my master's program in which I graduated, and I had a specialty in applied behavioral analysis, clinical psychology, and I couldn't find a job in my field. Everyone was like, "Oh, we'd love to hire you, but you need more experience." I'm like, "Well, where am I supposed to get experience if nobody will hire me?" Meanwhile, this is also me as a student. I didn't know that at the time, but it was the financial crisis, the mortgage meltdown of 2008, 2009. So that's also what contributed to me having a hard time, finding a job in my field. And at that point, you kind of have these feelings your worthiness is questioned. Am I not good enough? What's going on here? And it really, my version of the American dream, I felt like it failed me. So I'm like, I have to find something else to do. I have to find a way to survive. So I did some different odd end things. And then finally I had a friend that was like, I think you'll be really great in the mortgage industry. You're good at building relationships. Why don't you give it a try? And I was like, okay, even though I heard of what a mortgage was, and I'd heard of a 15-year and a 30-year. And it was something that in my mind was for old people because my parents had one, so at the time, now I'm the old person with the mortgage, but that's all that I knew. I really had very limited information, and I ended up in this field with no experience. And I went back to what I knew, which was being a student and also finding myself being a teacher. So my platform when it came to educating my clients is education. It's all that I knew. I didn't have this, amazing sales background because I had been, a kid in college my whole life.
Yeah. Wow. And so did you naturally from the start think, okay, there's this psychology, this mindset around money. I'm going to use that to my advantage when I educate these clients.
No, not initially, because
No.
again, I was so new to it and I was really just trying to learn, the verbiage, learn how to, have, sales training of like how to overcome objections and also just how to connect with people. So that wasn't like on the front of my mind. However, as I got some years of experience under my belt, it just kind of naturally happened. I was like, this is so interesting to me. Like, despite someone's educational background, their race, their socioeconomic status, where they live, I started to see certain patterns in the way that people were dealing with their money, whether they made a lot of money or whether they made a little bit of money. And I was like, there has to be something here, some type of psychology, even though I had never heard of the psychology of money. So that's when I just started to kind of, research it. I was seeing, people's credit reports and how they were, their attitude towards money, really the emotion that they projected onto the money, which is money literally is just a tool. It's something, but we as humans put this energy, this emotion onto it. And we a lot of times don't realize that our behaviors are already pretty much pre-programmed. And that's where that self-awareness has to come into play for us to understand, our view of money, our psychology of money, and really our relationship with money at the end of the day.
Yeah. I've just started kind of realizing my relationship with money, maybe just in the past 5 years. And a lot has to do with me kind of hindering my success. And I realize with success usually comes money, right? Like in business, if you're successful, it's because you're probably making a lot of money. I mean, that's how we equate it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was like, why am I so afraid to make a lot of money? And then when I really dug deep, I realized that I just had this kind of like gross feeling about like wealth, which is odd because I grew up in a pretty wealthy household. I mean, my dad's a doctor, my mom grew up in a wealthy household. So I grew up really getting everything I wanted, like we had everything that we needed, but it was done in a way where like my dad was still very much about like, you work hard for your money, like, you have to be humble, you have to be grounded, all of these things. So it was like so embedded in me that everybody else that I saw that had money for whatever reason, I saw kind of like maybe a little bit of, arrogance or a little bit of greediness, like not the best in people. And so for me, I equated that like, oh gosh, if you have money, then you're kind of basically an a-hole.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want to be an a-hole, like I don't want it to change me. So I feel like for whatever reason, I feel like if I have this wealth, then it's going to change me or it's going to change people's view of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I think that's where I realized like that was literally like blocking me from any kind of financial success. Like I'm still kind of in that place, to be honest.
Exactly. And I think, we're all on a journey when it comes to money. So, it's like once you hit one level, you go to the next one. Self-awareness, I think, has multi-layers. But what you spoke about is really, what I see or call, money blocks, really limiting beliefs around our view of money that, like you said, impact our behavior. And a lot of times, a lot of the emotions that I just heard were one, maybe a sense of guilt, like being the one who made it, or people projecting on you like this sense of, privilege, or you grew up a certain way. And at the end of the day, I mean, we as humans, we all deal with things, but it's those type of feelings and thoughts. Even you, let's say being a woman, a lot of times I've worked with women, in one-on-one coaching and things of that nature. So it's like their money confidence is lower because what does society tell women about their relationship with money? That they're not good with it. So they have these thoughts and that's, their money script that has been downloaded into them. So like, I'm not good with money. All I do is shop, I order stuff on Amazon. It just comes to my house. And then when I really start to kind of break it down with them, what is it? Are you really not good with money? Or is this something that you've been told? Yes. Someone said, women are gold diggers. So, whether if we want a man, that is successful, like, we shouldn't, have access to that, or it makes us a bad person. It makes us a gold digger. And kind of like what you said, like that slimy, grimy feeling of when people are rich. Are there some bad people that happen to be rich? Yes. But are there also people that are rich or wealthy that give back, that are philanthropists, that do good things? Yes, there are, of course. And so we can't let, one bad apple, dictate our viewpoint of others and a whole group and collective. Because, one thing about money, like, even the thought, this limiting belief, money can't buy happiness. I've asked, in different groups and communities and asked people that, and I thought that before, but over time, if you think about it, in a way, money does buy happiness. I understand, like, at a foundational level, like, no, it doesn't, but it buys experiences. It buys you time. I mean, it takes gas if you want to go visit your family or things of that nature, or go on a trip. So it just affords you a lifestyle that can bring more joy and more contentment into your life. Now, I think that when we get to the point where we're comparing ourselves, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think in this day and age, especially social media, that ability to scroll, we start comparing ourselves of somebody in a screenshot, and really those are people's highlight reels on social media. So, back in the day, we were talking about keeping up with the Joneses, but I feel like today it's keeping up with the Kardashians,
Yeah.
and it's like, you can't really have that sense of contentment and say, I'm happy with where I am. Of course, I'd like to have more, have a better life, but if we're always comparing ourselves, like, we're never reaching that sense of self-satisfaction or self-validation that should really come from within. It's not an external thing. And so that's where, for me, I mean, even money, we talk about net worth, but our worthiness, like, we're worthy just for the fact that we're here, that we exist. Like, when we were born, we were worthy. And then sometimes through different experiences, it wears it down over time, and we start to question ourselves, our own worthiness, and dictating, like you said, the perception of how other people look at us. There's a very common thing that people experience, survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt, where they're the ones that made it. So then they feel like they are responsible for lifting up and giving people money and helping others come up. And I mean, if you want to, but it's not an obligation, but it seems to feel that way when you look around, and maybe the people that you grew up with are not in the same position that you're in. And those feelings are very real, and they're valid.
Yeah. Well, that's like lotto winners, right? I feel like a lot of times they feel like they have to give their money away, and then they have their family members and friends, like, they feel that guilt, and then a lot of them just end up losing it all.
Exactly.
To give it away.
Probability is very high that they won't have any left.
Yeah, but at the same time, a lot of them, like, they needed that money, and then it was that guilt of, like, well, I need to share the wealth. So yeah, it is kind of like that balance, right? I mean, because you do have all these, you have the Oprahs and the Bill Gates of the world, and that give back and are absolutely amazing. And so I always have people that are like, yeah, but look at people like that where they're doing good with it. So don't look at it as just because you have it means that it's a bad thing, right? So that's kind of how I try to, like, start looking at it, is like, Raquel, if you have it, then you can help more people, because I do like to be that person that's out and about and randomly will pay for someone's meal or for someone's coffee, or I've done, we had a kind of a conversation about that, of just those kind of random acts of kindness. And so I view it as like, all right, well, then I can do more of those.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like there's kind of like four main behaviors when it comes to money. It's like save, spend, invest, and share. I mean, sharing is a part. Money, again, has energy. We want it to flow around, and that's part of it.
So then what do you specifically do? Like, when you have clients, like, do you really try to kind of delve into the money aspect, or do you just wait to see if it's someone that would benefit from you kind of sharing your insider knowledge? Or do you pretty much, like, that's part of your, because Money Mitra, I mean,
Right.
Money Mitra is everywhere. So people,
Yeah,
of course, are going to play with you with money.
Exactly. The mortgage industry, I mean, I got into the industry in 2012. So that's, kind of one thing that I do. And then I also, have the money mindset aspect. Now, I will say, in transparency, because I'm dealing with clients, and there are times, I mean, I'm using some of those tools to help them get over the hump, like in a mortgage transaction, but I don't really necessarily like blend it together per se. It's kind of like, two separate entities. Okay. But, there are times that I've had clients, a mortgage client, this, happened literally. She closed on her home this year, but, she got to the point she was feeling, stuck. She had some bad, landlords. There were like mice where she was staying, but then she had some bad experience. She's like, I don't want to live close to anybody. And she's like, this is too much. I just want to give up. But I had to remind her, I was like, these thoughts are based upon, prior experience. It doesn't mean this is going to be your future experience. And I said, and if you want better for yourself, you want better for your child and your future children, you have to make decisions. Now you have to get unstuck. And so, like, for example, in psychology, there's, different responses that we have when we're dealing with something. Some of the things we were talking about, like, we're limiting beliefs. We can think our way out of things, but some trauma exists in our body where we can't outthink it. Like, we have to outfeel it. We have to be in tune in the moment and realize what we're feeling. And so that takes like a different type of process. But when we are experiencing something traumatic, we've heard of the fight or flight response. So those are two responses right there. We might fight or we might flight and run. Another one is freeze. And so when I say that feeling of stuckness, which she was having, that's kind of like that freeze response where, and I know I've been there too. It's like something happens and I kind of like, I don't even know what to do. Like I just feel stuck.
Yeah.
So helping, her to get unstuck and to get moving. And I mean, we really broke some mental barriers that night. And, I think even the feeling of her releasing, because we cried together that night. So I think releasing that emotion. The next day she had a home under contract, literally. Like she had found a home, we, get under contract, and she was ready to go in her process. Now, there were some bumps in the process. Some people have like really smooth mortgage transactions. Yeah. Some, the card's a little bit different from them. So just, again, reminding her of why she started and what's going to be the outcome when she finishes, that concept of generational wealth. And to be honest, I felt like I even kind of contributed to the limiting beliefs because I was like, maybe you're not going to get this new home that you want. It may not be a new construction.
Yeah.
But she even showed me like there are no limits. Literally, she got a new construction home. And so she was like, I don't want anyone else's energy or bad, vibes in there. And she got exactly what she asked for. So that's another thing too. I think having the clarity, I think money confidence is a thing, but also money clarity. What do we want our money to do? Telling our, like, basically money go out here and do this, like we plant the seed, her buying that home, and as it appreciates in equity, I mean, that's the generational wealth for her and her son being able to see her at closing that, his mom was able to do this and do it on her own. And it doesn't mean that even women, another limiting belief is, I can't buy a home, I need to wait till I get married. Well, I've heard a lot of women say that and they're still not married. So it's like, how much money were they leaving on the table and their ability to build wealth by waiting? And guess what? That property can always be turned into an investment property later on. You can have your husband and your investment property. That's just residual income, passive income that's coming into the household. And, God forbid, if something happens, you also have a place to go, so it's just, preparing ourselves for our future, but getting out of these things of what we've been told. Like another big one that I hear women say, is they've been told to save for a rainy day. And that's great. But when we're saying, okay, a rainy day is going to happen. It's almost like we're speaking that. And yes, we should have, something saved, but also we're not really told to invest. I think it's almost, that has more of that masculine energy and like, or we're not good at investing, but really women, if you think about it, and the research shows women, when they put their mind to it and learn about it, I think also that gut, their intuition, those different factors that come together, women are actually really great at investing when they put the time and effort into doing it, if they're able to remove those barriers that society has put on them.
Yeah. I mean, even myself with like having a financial advisor, I grew up thinking that you had to be very wealthy or a CEO or someone of great importance to have a financial advisor. And it wasn't until a girlfriend of mine years ago, she's like, hey, I want to introduce you to my advisor. I'm like, why? And she's like, because I think it's really important. You have a 401k, you have an IRA, you got divorced, yada, yada. And I'm so glad that, I have him. And if anything, with what I'm going through right now with my condo sale and like the equity and then buying a new home, like it was so great to be able to go to someone and be like, all right, I need help. Like I want my money to work for me. I don't want it to just sit in my bank. So I realized like, yeah, everybody deserves and is worthy of having a financial advisor. It doesn't matter how much money you have, because what you're doing is just, you're helping your money grow. And so to have someone help you do that, I mean, I think it's really necessary. But yeah, for the longest time, I was like, financial advisor, what are you talking about?
It's not like you have one. Yeah, like the people that, the faces on Mount Rushmore, like those are the type of people that have financial advisors, right? Yeah. Let's just call it for, rich, wealthy old white men, but it's really not. We've really democratized the ability to build wealth, to watch our wealth grow. I mean, even, whether you like it or not, but certain applications like Robinhood, I mean, people can buy a few shares. I mean, it's you don't have these minimums anymore where we were seeing, in the past that really just made people feel uncomfortable and like, this is not for me. So I love seeing the progression and the innovation in that space when it comes to technology and allowing everyone to, be able to invest, whether, it's the stock market, cryptocurrency, real estate. Yeah. We're just finding a lot more people in those spaces these days.
Yeah. And I think it's just great in general, especially for single women like myself, where, when I got divorced, I really had to think about, okay, Raquel, you might not ever remarry or find another partner. Like, you have to be okay being on your own. And that means, like, you know, going to work, because I was a stay-at-home mom, all of those things. So I had to really think about it, you know, because I'm the one that initiated the divorce. So for me, you know, it's really important that I'm in a position to where I'm like financially responsible for myself. I have money, you know, invested. I just sold my condo, but I am looking to buy another one. But, you know, but even when I do buy another home, I even thought about this in my head. And you had mentioned something about this earlier about investment property. I even had in my head, because I try to manifest a lot too. So I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, let's say I do meet someone and I end up like sharing a home with that person and I have a place. I'm like, I will just keep it and it'll still be mine, but it will be my investment property. I'll go ahead and rent it out, but I'll be, you know, like scenarios like that, I've actually sat and thought about, you know?
Right.
And then again, if it doesn't work out, like, I at least have a home and I'm in a position to where, like, I'm okay. I don't need a man, right? And I know that's that whole, like, I don't need a man, but no, truly, like, a lot of women are unfortunately in a position where they're like, I need someone. Like, I can't do this on my own.
Right. And that's that, you know, dependence, you know, we have like dependence, independence. I think there's even this concept that we need to talk about ultra independence, of being overly independent and feeling like we can't ask anybody for help. But, you know, really, I mean, it's like, if people can come together and, like you said, have whatever they have before, keep that. But what can people build together, you know, in relationships? Very important, very powerful. I mean, two people can get a lot further than one on their own, you know? But we also don't want to be in situations, I think, like you were talking about, like the dependence, like financial dependence on a man, especially in relationships where historically the man has been the breadwinner, where women stay in situations that in their heart is not where they need to be. It's not the best for their emotional, spiritual, mental, physical wellness, but they're there because they don't have the ability to provide for themselves. And that is the hardest thing, is to go and, you know, have to rebuild yourself from nothing, or even less than nothing, like from ground zero. So I think, you know, it's important, you know, for women to have, you know, something, you know, of their own, you know, some type of a nest egg, while also saying, okay, let me lean in, let me lean across the aisle and also build relationships and be open, you know, to doing that. And I mean, even with what we're talking about, like giving money, I mean, I've seen all that kind of stuff in relationships. It happens. People ask for money. I mean, money, I think, is one of the biggest triggers for people. It's one of the biggest causes for divorce.
Isn't it the number one reason for divorce? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And, you know, and then, I mean, we also, you know, if we talk about wellness, I mean, mental health, I mean, mental illness and money also tend to kind of play a role as well. So, I mean, those are the factors that are dictating our relationships. I mean, obviously, even our work relationship, our relationship with money is found there. And I mean, even from a psychological standpoint, you know, attachment, our early attachment to our parents, you know, kind of builds that foundation, and it impacts our relationship with money, our relationship at work, our relation, you know, our romantic relationships, all of those different things. So I think, like I said, that awareness. Now, when it comes to money, so like kind of typical in psychology, like, you know, our programming is built from the ages of like 0 to 7. We say, like, with money, it's kind of more, 2 to 7 years old, where we're seeing our caregivers and our sphere of influence, how they're interacting with money, you know, how they handle it. What is their attitude? Like, what do they project on it? Also, what experiences did we see or have? Because, you know, I had a client who, you know, growing up, the lights went out one time, or there was no hot water. And so she always had this fear that she was going to experience that again. You know, that sense of the lights could go out, even though she was making $160,000. She's married. Her husband was even in school. She was supporting him. And she was like, Mitra, I'm not good with money. And I said, are you not good with money, or have you been told you're not good with money? I want you to start paying attention to your interactions with other people, and also see, do you put people on a pedestal, and maybe their situation is not what you really thought. And so she started to uncover that. Like, it was like really amazing seeing that in her progression. She was even not even able, you know, not saying it was just all that, but, you know, able to conceive. And I said, like, maybe it's your ability to not allow yourself to receive, that you're dealing with some of those things. She was having like some other physical issues. She ended up getting pregnant, you know, in the months to come. So that all was just so, you know, fascinating to me. And I think someone across the screen was saying that song, you know, all my women independent, throw your hands at me. And that's what happens. I mean, music is programming and conditioning. I saw a new song that came out yesterday from Meg Thee Stallion.
Oh, yeah.
but she's like, I'm an independent woman, I don't have to deal with this. And it's right. I mean, do we want to deal with certain things, you know, like cheating, deception? Of course not. But it's like, you know, also, how does that programming, you know, playing into our view of men? Because are all men that way?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know
Yeah.
how, you know, probability or whatnot. What did someone just say on the
Gal said, are you not good with money, or have you been told you're not good with money?
Exactly. Yes.
You know? Yeah.
Yes. And it's like peeling back those layers, because we go back to certain experience. I was like, tell me about your experiences with money. Like, what happened? Who said what to you? And like, when we start to kind of dig back and peel that back, I'm like, oh my goodness. So then they're able to release that, because it was never even theirs.
Yeah.
It was what someone else projected onto them.
Yeah, I mean, and in a whole nother layer too, which I experience in my own family, is money equates with love, right? So for a lot of people, that's the only way they can show their love is by giving money, and you know, and I have a family member that's the way he expresses his love, right? So that's another
Does
thing
he
too.
think that's the way he expresses his love? You know, and I think even, you know, like, this may resonate with people, but you know, even because as women, it's like we're told to be, you know, be a good girl and make good grades. So it's this like level of perfection, this expectation that we don't even really get to just be or just exist. So we're always, you know, it's that people pleasing type mentality. And sometimes, are we really giving people something because we want to give it, you know, or are we giving it because we want a certain reaction? So even as kids, we may have seen our parents, maybe our parents, you know, because emotional intelligence isn't taught. Like, how can people give you something that they don't have? It's not taught in schools.
Yeah.
But we saw a reaction in our parents when it was built upon or attached to success. Like, oh, you made straight A's. Like, oh, yay. Like, now your worthiness is dependent upon that. And that same experience may be happening when you give someone a gift. It's like, oh, you know, they're so excited. Whereas you may not see that sense of excitement somewhere else. So it's just those types of situations and uncovering, like, at the root, am I giving it with love or for love? I think is a great question to ask.
I like that too. Yeah, it's funny because even earlier you were talking about the body and trauma, and so like I actually just ordered 2 books together, and I just got them 2 days ago. Was The Body Keeps Score.
Yep.
And Think Again. So it's funny, like I bought them at the same time, as I felt like a lot of it's rethinking things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's deprogramming what you've always been told, and then also how your body literally like holds on to trauma. So yeah, so I love that, like when I have conversations like these, it's like the entire like universe is like in play, aligning with everything. So when you were saying that, I'm like, gosh, this is just all makes such, you know.
And The Body Keeps Score. I haven't the other one you said, but I what you just said, that one book is The Body and the Mind, where they you know meet together. So I love that. And it's true, because like I said, some things you can think your way out of, but some are in the body. And see, emotion really means energy in motion. So when there's some energy, or if it's a negative energy, or we have, you know, sadness, guilt, you know, whatever those emotions are, they can get stuck in the body. That's literally where I think a lot of even these autoimmune disorders that we're seeing that disproportionately impact women, I believe that's where they come from. I'm not a doctor. I mean, I dropped out of Premed, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I think that's where that comes from.
I think it really makes so much sense. That's why I really do my best not to stress. I really don't, because I really feel like it does make such a difference in your body. And, you know, that's the thing too, is I tend to smile and laugh a lot. And people are always like, you're so smiley, so like always laughing. I'm like, yeah, because it literally is like medicine for me. You know, they say laughter is the best medicine. Like I can feel a physical change when I start laughing, or if I listen to a song that I really like and I start dancing. It's incredible how it really does change your mood. So it's one of those things where it is so important, you know, to do things that change that mindset. Michelle, that's good with love or for love, like that. Yeah, it is really good. There's like so many good little like nuggets in here. Oh, and then Christina. Okay, so she has a big comment there. And my daughter, is that you in the background? Okay. Well, you're about to be on live. I've always been good and okay with money. Right now, since I'm temporary not working, I have been trying to be smart with my money. I'm always told that when I start working again, I totally want to even more smarter and hopefully be able to help others as well, especially with my family have done. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. So what kind of advice would you give her where she's, you know, obviously she's temporarily not working, and she's trying to be smart with money. So when the term like smart with money, like what to you means being smart with money, really quickly, because we are, getting ready to hit the 30 minute.
I would say, I mean, what you just said, like dancing and what getting physical, because movement allows you to kind of move through. And it doesn't mean like don't feel your emotions, like feel them, sit with them, but don't hold on too long. Like give yourself 24 hours and let it go. Like Elsa says, let it go, because that is that sense of freedom. But I think being smart is also, because I think, especially with COVID and being at home, and I talked about, Amazon, that was kind of a thing that people were dealing with. Like, I'm just overspending.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a situation or a behavior around money that causes discomfort for you, think about how you're really feeling that's leading to that behavior. Like, I think for a lot of people, it was like loneliness. If they were a single person at home, like, I'm lonely, I'm bored, I don't have anything else to do, so I just go on Amazon and I spend. And getting at the root of that, because if you can find other places or, other ways to replace that feeling with something else, like going on a walk instead of spending, if you're trying to save your money, that can help you to be more smart with money. I think being smart with money really, like with financial literacy, financial intelligence, starts with emotional intelligence. So I say be more in tune with how you're feeling. So you don't let your feelings drive your behavior. Just like feelings drive us in relationships to make decisions that we're like, I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't feeling that way. So just sit with it. Don't react. Learn to respond versus reacting.
I like that. Yeah, because I think as we're kind of in a society, which I believe like we're kind of more open to talking about these things, right? More open to sharing all of it. And I love that, because I think people are having to become more self-aware in so many different scenarios and situations. And I think this is one of them, right? Like where nobody talked about money, like our parents didn't. It was a generational thing. And now people are talking about it. So it's making us we have to think about it now. Like, why do we think about money this way? So I love that, there's people like you out there that, are having, like, people have this conversation in their head.
And that's the goal, because like you said, the topic of money has been so taboo. It's important to normalize conversations about money and think about, who does it benefit if we're not talking about it?
Yeah.
There's a reason why that's the case. So, even people now are more open to sharing what they're making in workplaces and spaces to make sure that they're getting fair and equitable income. We know that there's been gaps in what women are making or certain, racial demographics. So it's important to have those conversations, normalize those conversations, and it leads more space for people to, negotiate and for them to stand in their worth, because there's always more left to be on the table, and I think our self-worth is not our net worth, but the more we increase our self-worth, our net worth increases along with that as well.
I agree. See, another thing too. Oh gosh, so many things. But unfortunately, we're already like past the 30-minute mark. I told you it goes by really quickly. But this was really good. And I just love that hopefully like whoever is listening in can walk away really starting to, delve in a little bit deeper into their relationship with money and why they, react a certain way. So instead of reacting, responding. Yes. Okay. See, I'm learning. But if where can anybody like follow you? Because I know that you do a lot on social media and you have kind of your own.
So you can follow me on Instagram. My name literally is @MoneyMitra. So money, we all know how to spell that, and Mitra is Mitra. And you can also go to my website, www.moneymindsetmitra.com for more information.
No, I love this. And thanks again for everyone who tuned in and for those who will tune in on the replay. And Mitra, this was awesome. Like this was really,
it was such a pleasure to be here and to connect with all of you. And I say we all own our money mindset and keep elevating.
Yes. Have that abundance mentality. So
yes.
All right. Well, take care, everyone. And I will see you all next Wednesday.